just a few brief remarks about our guest, Edwin Black. Those of you who were here, who were with us at Ramat on Sunday, heard this already, but I have to say it again for those who weren't here, who weren't there. Sorry. Edwin Black is, in my opinion, the most important historian of the 20th and 21st centuries, because his investigations make it possible to understand World War II. And without them, you really can't understand World War II, because Edwin Black is the man who resurrected from oblivion the subject of eugenics. And eugenics is the movement, the original movement of Germanic supremacy that was launched actually first in Great Britain. It came out of the mind of Francis Galton, a British, one of the fathers of psychology and statistics and so forth. But he's also the father of eugenics. And from the very beginning, what eugenics was preaching was that the upper classes all across the West were very smart because they had Germanic blood, whereas the people at the bottom were supposedly at the bottom because they were mentally retarded or feeble-minded, as the eugenicists originally liked to say. And the reason they were feeble-minded or retarded was that they didn't have enough Germanic blood. Now, this is a movement that was popular all over the West with the upper classes, with the aristocracies. Why? Because all over the West, the aristocracies can claim to have Germanic descent. And it became especially popular among the Anglo-Saxons, right? So the upper classes in Britain and the United States consider themselves justly descended from the Anglo-Saxons and the Normans, and both the Anglo-Saxons and the Normans are Germanic tribes. The Anglo-Saxons are actually a fusion of two Germanic tribes. So the fact that they had this Germanic ancestry made the whole ideology of Germanic superiority very appealing to them, and also the idea that because they were supposedly superior, they should be the ones to rule everybody else. And this is an idea that was promoted in Great Britain among the aristocrats, and then among the very wealthy industrialists in the United States. And they invested many, many, many millions of dollars turning this into a mainstream pseudoscience. So they created secondary school courses and university courses, and they patronized all kinds of pseudoscientists in psychology, medicine, sociology, etc. And the objective was to transform Western society, to institutionalize the abolition of the democratic rights of ordinary people. And their biggest project was the financing and support of German Nazism, which launched a war of conquest to make eugenics the law of the land everywhere. And it is amazing, but when you go to school and you learn about World War II, you never learn about eugenics. I never heard a word about it. And when you read the two major works that created the historiographical paradigm for World War II, in other words, the framework that everybody uses to understand World War II, which are Churchill and Shirer, right? Churchill wrote a gigantic work in 6 tomes called the Second World War. And Shirer wrote the most read work of history in all of history, which is The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. And when you read these works, so for example, if you read The Gathering Storm, which is the first volume of Churchill's magnum opus, which received the Nobel Prize, by the way, you can't find the word eugenics in it. So Churchill is supposedly explaining the causes of World War II, right? And he has not one paragraph about the movement that produced German Nazism. And if you read Shirer, whose work is about 1,250 pages long, if I remember correctly, once again, you cannot find a single instance of the word eugenics. So it becomes impossible for us to understand what happened to us. We can't understand the 20th century or the 21st if we don't understand World War II, and we can't understand World War II if we don't understand eugenics. So Edwin Black is, in a sense, the savior of our historical Western memory. And my own work is impossible without Edwin Black's work. So please give him a huge hand, welcoming hand. And today, on Sunday, we had a dynamic where I would ask Edwin questions. I put him on the hot seat because we have some differences of opinion about recent events. We agree on a lot of things, but we have some differences of opinion about what's going on right now. And I think those differences of opinion are very interesting for you because as the Jewish people knows, the only way to advance knowledge is to have a Talmudic process. You have to have someone defend one opinion, and then you have to have someone else attack it, so that we can learn through this process which arguments really deserve to be adopted. And that's also, of course, the method of science. So on Sunday, what we did is I would ask him questions, he would answer, then I would come back at him, and so forth. And the rules are the rules that Edwin established and did not respect are that after the question, well, in this case, I will speak for 5 minutes. I have my phone here to keep me disciplined, and then I think you have 5 minutes to reply. Is that right? And then we can have a little back and forth, maybe not as strict as that. And then we go to the next question. Okay. So now it's my turn to be on the hot seat, and Edwin, take it away.
Okay. Well, thank you, Francisco, for that excellent and unexpected presentation on eugenics. I won't add to it because your knowledge is very impressive and should be listened to. So I'll just say welcome everybody to our event tonight. As Francisco said, he interrogated me on Sunday, and now I'm going to ask him a few questions. And then we'll have a third event coming up.
That's right. Let me just say about that. Because otherwise my people are going to be very upset that I forgot to remind everybody that we have a third event the day after tomorrow, on Thursday, on the 20th. And that one's going to be at the Live Aqua Hotel. It's a paid event. You have to get tickets for it. But I recommend you do, because at that event, the public is in control. And so the paying audience at the third event is the one that asks the questions. And you're going to get to put both Edwin and myself on the hot seat. And you can ask all the most difficult questions that you've been burning to ask us on Thursday. So make sure they can get tickets at the table and in front at the entrance. That's where you can buy your tickets. They're totally worth it. And you can also buy the course that we are giving at Management of Reality, which is also totally worth it. So anyway, Edwin, take it away.
In order to proceed today, I'll just first give you the barest of information about myself. You could find out more about me at edwinblack.com. And I have the edwinblackshow.com. You could all sign up for free alerts. We're having a show on Thursday, live from Mexico City. Then it gets edited, and I have a YouTube channel. And anything you need to know about me that I'm willing to admit is up there. So for today's format, in order to be more inclusive and give some time to the audience and not rush ourselves, the ground rules are similar. I'm going to ask Francisco an important question that's on everyone's mind, and he's going to take 5 minutes. And then I will answer for 5 minutes, but there won't be any banter afterwards. We'll go through some questions. And then when we're done with that, I'd like to take some questions from the audience. And those questions should be reduced to a single sentence without a statement. And I'll try to answer in a minute or two, and then you'll try to answer. In this way, we'll involve people. So I will start now. My first question to you, Francisco, is something that's on everyone's mind. What is your thought about Trump's plan to rebuild Gaza, which the territory of Gaza, which has been called by people without knowledge in the media a sovereign land? So, and which has been called by the people of Gaza and the Palestinian community, the so-called Palestinian community, as their homeland. I'd like to know your thoughts on the actual sovereignty of the Gaza territory and the correctness of the people of Gaza claiming that they are Palestinians going all the way back to the Canaanites. Okay. Take it away.
Thank you. So I'll begin with the last part of your question. So, the claim that we've been hearing for many years now about the supposedly ancestral Arab Palestinians who are supposedly have been there forever. This is a false claim. I mean, it's true that there were some Arabs there. They have been there for centuries, because as you know, the Muslim conquest after Muhammad started preaching in the 7th century, shortly thereafter, the Arab Muslims conquered a gigantic piece of land in jihad, which is the concept of holy war, in which they launched themselves against what they call infidels, which is basically the definition of an infidel is someone who doesn't want to accept that Muhammad heard the voice of God in his head telling him to kill those who don't believe that he heard the voice of God in his head. That's basically what an infidel is. And Muhammad, his goal and that of his successors was precisely that, to force everybody to convert to Islam, or else to turn them into corpses or into slaves. And it was in that process that the Arab Muslims conquered what is today the land of Israel. Well, what has always been the land of Israel, forgive me. And the Arabs that were living there when the Zionist project got going in the 19th century, well, the modern Zionist project, are a consequence of that conquest. So they are the imperialists, they are the occupiers, they are the colonizers that dispossessed the true owners of that land, the Jewish people, in conquest. So no, those are not the original owners of the land. They are not the ancestral autochthonous natives. But also, it's important to point out that when the Zionist project began in the 19th century, in the late 19th century, in the 1880s, there were very, very few Arabs there. So few that, in fact, the overwhelming majority of the people who call themselves today Arab Palestinians are actually descended from immigrants, recent immigrants from other places. And their last names reveal this. So their last names identify them as people who came from Egypt or from Yemen or from Syria or from Iraq and many other places. And the reason they came right at the same time that the Zionist Jews were coming is that the Zionist Jews created an economic boom in the land of Israel, and they made it attractive for all of these Arab immigrants that actually the British Empire was favoring to come in, even as they were trying to restrict Jewish immigration to the land of Israel. So no, there are no millenarian Arab Palestinians. This is a myth. It's a myth that has been invented to delegitimize the Jewish claim to their ancestral land. Now, what about Trump's plan? I don't really know what to think about Trump's plan. because Trump says many things that he doesn't mean. He many times he makes claims or takes positions as a negotiating tactic or simply as a head fake. And I think maybe this is a head fake. In other words, he doesn't really mean that he's going to expel the Arab Palestinians and rebuild Gaza without them. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think he knows that that's impossible because nobody's going to take the Arab Palestinians, because wherever the Arab Palestinians have settled, they have produced civil wars, right? So PLO Fatah produced a civil war, created all kinds of problems in Egypt, created a civil war in Syria, created a civil war in Lebanon, created a civil war in Jordan, and created all kinds of problems in Kuwait. And so the leaders of the bosses of the Arab countries remember that, and nobody wants them. The expressed love in the Arab world for the Arab Palestinians is a lie. They don't really love them. They don't care about them. What they care about is the Jews. They care about the Jews in a negative way. And so the Arab Palestinians are a tool to attack Israel. And they're not an effective tool to attack Israel if they find a solution for them to settle elsewhere. So I don't believe that I can't stop this. There we go. Right. So
Finish up with sovereignty.
yes, but I have to silence this. Oh my God. So I don't think that. Finally, I did it. I don't think they're going to take them in, and therefore, I don't think Trump's plan is viable, or what he claims his plan is. Now, sovereignty.
Sovereignty.
The concept of sovereignty would require the Arab Palestinians to be the legitimate owners or natives of that land. You can certainly say, oh, well, but you have to offer them something because they're there. Fine. They were offered a state in 1947, pardon me, and their boss, Haj Amin al-Husseini, rejected the Arab Higher Committee, which he ran, rejected the offer of a state in 1947. And then his protege, Azam Pasha, who was the Secretary General of the Arab League, announced in public in an interview in Akhbar al-Yom, an important Egyptian newspaper. He said, no, we don't want a state, and if the UN partitions mandate Palestine and creates two states there, what we're going to do is we're going to go exterminate the Israeli Jews because we cannot tolerate the existence of a Jewish state.
Okay.
So
5 minutes. All right. That was an excellent presentation. I want to thank you very much. I'll comment, if I could, for 5 minutes on the demographics. The population of Gaza was, when I was first there in the 80s, was almost desolate. In 1950, it was approximately 25,000, and now it is slightly more than 1 million. Now, who are these people? Francisco hit on it. They're from many areas, and you could tell that by their family and or tribal names. Now let's look at some of the people. Of course, there are some, and I really mean some, Arabs from the bottom of the Arabian Peninsula that swept up into the Islamic conquest. But more important were the huge Albanian movement that was put into Gaza. So we're talking about the Ottoman Empire ruled Gaza for more than half a millennium, and in the 1804 Sultan of the Ottoman Empire was Mehmed Muhammad Ali I, ruled for some decades. He was an Albanian, and they had a habit in the Ottoman Empire of moving entire populations across Asia and Eurasia, and he moved in many Albanians. We also see a number of Saudi tribes people who escaped and went into parts of Syria and from Syria, they then migrated down to the relatively deserted realm of Gaza. We also see the Hanadi Alawites, who are Syrian and Lebanese, who came down after fleeing persecution. We see the Circassians, who moved in to just the northern part of Gaza. So there's a mixture of all these people. And the most common name you're going to hear is El Masri, because El Masri is Egypt, one of Egypt. And Egypt, of course, was called upon by the British Mandate to move Egyptians into Gaza to help with a concept. This was during the British Mandate, a concept they called absorptive capacity. And as he says, they wanted to build up the economic stature, because the economic stature and ability to absorb immigrants was created on, well, we'll create these economic opportunities, and then we'll take in the immigration, and we'll move people around. The most important takeaway from this is you're all being gaslit. They're lying to you, and you need the knowledge to fight back with the truth. They're not there from Canaan. They have nothing to do with the Canaanites. The word Canaan means purple and comes from the Lebanese seashell from which they took out the pigment. Now let's talk about sovereignty. I heard an idiot from NBC, which is very easy to hear an idiot if you tune into NBC, talk about sovereign. It's sovereign land. How is Trump going to do this? It's a non-sovereign territory. So let's get into what it was. First of all, it was a backwater of the Ottoman Empire until 1920. So for about 500-600 years, it was a backwater of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire lost the war. They had to give up all of their colonies, and that became a British mandate, as you know. That was part of Jewish Palestine under the International League of Nations in 1922, September, with a good bottle of whiskey, Winston Churchill wrote a memo and took away 73% of Jewish Palestine and created a brand new country called Jordan, okay, that never existed before, from 3 empty provinces of Bedouin provinces of the Ottoman Empire. And it was in dispute during the entire League of Nations, because, as Francisco and others have said, the Arabs would not accept a land. 1948, there was a war. The Jews set up their state after the UN Resolution 181. The Arabs did not. They tried to kill them. Didn't work. Just a moment. Momentito, por favor. Oy, oy, oy.
Well, we promised to learn how to use our phones for the next conference.
These are the high-tech guys. They tell me they got all these people running around. The only thing they can't do is turn the timer off on the phone. Anyway, the last part of this is, and I'll be quick because I've overrun my time, is that in the 60s, in the 80s, we have the Oslo Accords, which took this land without sovereignty, which had been handed off from the Ottoman Empire to the British Mandate, and gave it to an administrative unit called the Palestinian Authority. Oslo I, Oslo II. The Palestinian Authority has repeatedly stated that Oslo is dead. Right now, Gaza has no sovereign. The fact is, the PLO was forcibly removed with violence and overrun by an army called Hamas. They are illegally, under all definitions of occupation, occupying this land. But Gaza, like Wales, like Scotland, is not a sovereign land. And so it is up to the map makers and the peacemakers, as they have done after every war, World War I, World War II, India, Pakistan, you name it. It is up to them to decide what shall become of this land. And further we can talk about, but there's not time for that. So thank you very much for that, ladies and gentlemen.
Edwin, can I add just one fun fact on sovereignty?
Is
one.
Is it 30 seconds?
Yes, 30
All
seconds.
right, one fun fact on sovereignty.
Okay, so the Palestine Liberation Organization, the recognized representative of the Arab Palestinian people, they were created in 1964. And the original PLO charter, the constitution of the PLO from 1964, in article, I believe it's article 24, you can go check it, states that Judea and Samaria and Gaza are not part of Palestine.
And the reason they said that is because they all swore allegiance that they were citizens of Jordan at the time after the Jericho conference. Let's move on to our next question. I enjoyed that. All right. I wrote this down. You're going to like this one. I love them all. Where is the Iranian nuclear weapon project specifically? And what can be done to stop it? And who's going to stop it? Whose name begins with T. Take it away.
So, you want the longitude and latitude of the bunkers where they are building the nuclear bombs? Is that it?
No, that's good. I want to know how close they are to a nuclear weapon.
Well,
how many do they have?
I don't know any of that, and I don't think anybody does. I think all claims about the Iranian nuclear weapons program are highly suspect. But my guess would be that they are fairly close to building a nuclear bomb if they haven't built one already. And I don't know the longitude and latitude of the underground installations where they're building them. But as to who's going to destroy the nuclear installations, well, if Israel doesn't do it, nobody will. And the latest noises we heard from Trump are that Trump wants to negotiate with Iran instead of going to war with Iran, or instead of supporting Israel going to war with Iran. Israel already had an opportunity to destroy the entire nuclear infrastructure of Iran and also the oil infrastructure of Iran, which would have easily produced a revolution in Iran, because obviously the Iranian people don't want that government. We've seen this, for example, in the massive protests after this girl, Mahsa Amini, was murdered by the morality police in Iran for not wearing the hijab properly, according to them. So it's obvious that the Iranian people don't want that government. And if the nuclear installations and the oil installations were destroyed, I think that would create the conditions for a mass uprising, and we could see regime change in Iran. But Israel did not take the opportunity to do that. They attacked Iran, destroyed the air defenses of Iran. They didn't lose a single plane. And I think a jet fighter, and I think that that was the moment, and the opportunity was lost. And now I don't see any support from the United States to do that, and I don't see any willingness among the Israeli bosses to go ahead and knock Iran out of the chessboard. I'll stop there.
Okay, so I'll steal your 2 minutes that you haven't taken. Thank you very much for that. If I could just add a little detail. Iran has 5 nuclear bombs right now, perhaps 8. I'd like to explain exactly what these bombs look like. I originally revealed the existence of these bombs in a special investigation that you could see in the Times of Israel. Just go to the internet and mark Edwin Black, the design of the Iranian nuclear bomb. Now here's the warhead. The warhead is an R-265 shock generator in a sphere divided up into two hemispheres. When they come together, they hold the core. On the outside of the warhead, this is the warhead, are 5 millimeter grooves with PETN explosive from a Russian design. Uh, those are timed with microsecond synchrony to explode simultaneously, and that implosion will be absorbed by a special fuse called an exploding bridge wire. It can take a great deal of pressure and then transmit it into one solid direction. That direction will be toward a neutron initiator, and the neutron initiator will fire one stray neutron into the core, which is the 90% uranium core, which has been metallized and turned into a sphere. And all that goes into a Shachab 3, which has a 10 millimeter distance between the outside of the shell. They use that because there's a guidance system in the Shachab 3, which is a knockoff of the Nodong 2 North Korean one, to explode at 550 feet above meters above the ground in an air burst. It can't hit the ground. It's got to be detonated above the ground. So what the Amit project, which was kept in a warehouse with green doors, which has been penetrated, what called for 5. Now they have enriched the uranium to 80%, to 60%. The distance between 60% and 90% is almost imperceptible and takes a short amount of time. Could take about a week, could take about 5 days, it could take 2 weeks. That's why all the authorities have said that Iran is a nuclear threshold. So the moment that core is put into that R265 shock generator, which has already been tested, and put into the Shachab 3 nose cone, and moved into position for launch for delivery, that is the moment that Israel and the United States can and must attack, and it can't be any further than that. Israel has a special unit to practice this attack. They know exactly what they're doing. It's called the Third Circle Directorate. It's got its own hierarchy. The United States, while Trump tried to pretend he wanted to have a negotiation, what kind of a peace negotiation is it when he uses these terms? We would much rather make an arrangement than bomb you to smithereens. And they just had a meeting in Israel with Rubio and Waltz and others, and they have decided to go ahead at this particular time. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but the decision has been taken to go ahead and bomb. It will be done by Israel, but the United States will participate with granting 5 things, and those 5 things that Israel has needed and which were denied during the anti-Semitic and anti-Israel Biden administration, those 5 things are being granted. There will also be other forms of support coming out of Djibouti and other places, and we think that Israel will go ahead and take out the entire system. The 2 B-52s arrived in Qatar 4 hours ago, and they're carrying bunker busters, MOPs, massive ordnance penetrators, 57A, and they've also got MOABs, the mother of all bombs, which can be dropped into a canyon and go up and through the ravines and through the tunnels. I can't say any more, but I've been working on this for a long time, for 15 years, and I believe God should grant the moment is now. Thank you very much. No rebuttal.
Well, I have one.
30 seconds?
Sure.
Go ahead.
So what is it? Is it 2025 now? So you said the last 15 years. For the last 10 years, every time everybody and Edwin Black starts saying that Israel is about to attack Iran, I have gone on the record to say, no, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen now, and it will never happen. And every time I have been right. And we have a bet, Edwin Black and I, a $100 bet. He believes that Israel's attack against Iran is imminent. I am sure that it is not. We will soon find out. So when am I collecting on this bet? How many months are we going to wait?
We're waiting just through 2025. Was that 100 pesos or 100?
The $100, my friend.
Dollars.
So,
Okay.
so if we run the clock out on 2025, I collect. Is that it?
Yeah, but just remember, ladies and gentlemen, Israel was in the air to destroy the Iranian nuclear infrastructure years ago. They were in the air, and Ehud Barak stopped it. And then the second time they were in the air, a guy called Barack Obama stopped it. They have been ready for a long time, and I won't go any further than that. I think I've given you some pretty good details. Okay, let's go to our third question.
Well, but just as just as a last counter, what one would really have to explain is why, when Israel overflew Iran and destroyed all of its air defenses, they didn't go ahead and destroy the nuclear installations.
We're over time. We shouldn't do this, but I'll answer the question. Netanyahu was being blackmailed by the Biden administration every hour of every day since October 7th. And the exact contours of the attack had to be approved by Biden, and they specifically excluded the nuclear targets, and they specifically excluded the refineries. And so Israel did the next best thing. They attacked the radar installations right next to the nuclear facilities. So there is no question that if you want to look at the shark from the shore, you may only see the fin. But if you're swimming with the sharks, you can see a great deal more. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention to that and for good observations. And that bottle of mezcal and the $100, we have our bet. Let's go to the third important question facing the Jewish world. Can Turkey remain a member of NATO, especially since they're cutting deals with for Russian S-400 radar, and they've already made a mutual defense pact with ISIS 3.0 in Syria, and a corollary question, and basically Turkey is a threatening and destabilizing country right now and has vowed to dismantle Israel openly. And the corollary question is, do we need NATO?
Okay. All right. So Turkey, ISIS, and NATO. All right. So the first thing that we need to understand, and we have an article about this on the Management of Reality Substack, if you want to go look at the evidence. ISIS is a consequence of U.S. policy in Iraq. This is actually no secret. It was reported everywhere that ISIS came out of the U.S. military prison system that was built in Iraq during the invasion of Iraq. So the U.S. military built these gigantic prisons where they started putting, all kinds of jihadis who were blowing things up, but also many people who were not jihadis, who were accused by someone of something, and they ended up in these prisons. And the U.S. general who was in charge of managing these prisons, he himself called his prison system Jihadi University. That's his phrase. Because what they were doing at these prisons is that they were allowing the jihadis to control the social life of the prison. And what happened in these prisons is that the jihadis were intimidating, where they were forcing other prisoners to become jihadis, and they were teaching with blackboards the principles of jihad and how to make bombs and how to become a suicide bomber. And all of the leaders of ISIS came out of this, including al-Baghdadi, the top leader of ISIS. They all came out of this prison system. The prisons operated for 5 years, the time it takes you to get a bachelor's degree in Jihadi University. And at the end of those 5 years, what the U.S. authorities did is they simply let them go. They opened the doors of the prisons and they let all of these jihadi terrorists go. The U.S. installed government in Iraq complained bitterly about this. And the local sheikhs complained bitterly about this. And they told the U.S. authorities, what are you doing? The people you're letting go, these are Al-Qaeda in Iraq terrorists. Al-Qaeda in Iraq is, of course, the organization that later became ISIS, or was later renamed ISIS. And ISIS was then supported by Turkey, by Saudi Arabia, by Qatar, and all of that was done in collusion with U.S. authorities. In fact, one of the most embarrassing stories to come out of this whole thing, out of this whole mess, is that the U.S. in Turkey was training what they called the Syrian Free Army, I think it was called, and the people they trained in the Syrian Free Army then got up and walked over to ISIS. After they got their U.S. weapons and their U.S. training, they simply, they joined ISIS. So the creation of ISIS was U.S. policy. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And of course, Turkey was involved with that. So there's a very strong alliance between the U.S. and the Turkish bosses. There always has been. And now these American and Turkish-made ISIS terrorists are in control of Syria. Now, should Turkey be part of NATO? Should NATO exist? I don't think NATO should exist. I think the reason we have a war in Ukraine is precisely that NATO was trying to expand into Ukraine. That's one reason. And the other reason is that the Ukrainian Nazis were murdering Russians in eastern Ukraine. This is no defense of Putin. I'm not defending Putin, but we have to say the things that did happen. It is true that Ukrainian Nazis were murdering ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine. That was happening. And Putin did have reasons to complain. So no, I don't think NATO should exist. I don't think it makes any sense but if it does exist, I don't think it makes any sense for Turkey to be part of NATO if Turkey is arming and training ISIS terrorists who want to exterminate the Israeli Jews and who have now taken over Syria. So I don't think there should be an alliance with Turkey because Turkey is a jihadi state. Turkey has been governed by a jihadi party for many years now. But I mean, you could say the same of the United States. The United States has been governed by a jihadi ruling elite for a long time.
Okay,
don't forget, let me just finish. Don't forget that world jihad was in fact launched by the United States because it was the U.S. bosses, Carter and Reagan, who first removed the Shah of Iran from Iran, and then they installed Ayatollah Khomeini in power, and then Reagan armed Ayatollah Khomeini to the teeth. This is called the Iran-Contra affair or the Iran-Contra scandal. We're talking about billions of dollars in weapons sent by Ronald Reagan to Ayatollah Khomeini, who is the launcher of world jihad.
All right. So that was an excellent resume of America's involvement in ISIS. You could say the same for the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. So let's first come to understand that NATO is a Cold War reaction to the Soviet Union's Warsaw Pact. The Soviet Union had a group of its Eastern European allies or satellites or sphere countries. They were all armed. They were all planning to take over Western Europe, especially they were concentrated along the Fulda Gap in divided Germany, where 1,100 tanks were supposed to come across. There is no more Warsaw Pact. There is no more Soviet Union. Turkey is the number one threat to Israel now. In case you didn't hear it, Turkey is the number one threat. The son of Erdogan, the head of Turkey, has promised to lead masses against Israel to reclaim the Ottoman Empire, which of course controlled Palestine at the time of the First World War. They've led massive rallies, and now this third generation ISIS guy, Gilani, who was taken over Syria within 14 days when people were taking a siesta and they woke up and they said, well what's this? So Syria's fallen. It's going to be bifurcated or trifurcated into a Druze province, and other ethnic provinces, and Turkey has got two provinces that it controls. It has just established a mutual military pact with Syria that's just over the Golan Heights, and Syria will allow Turkey to build an air base in Syria. So that's a problem. So additionally, Turkey has purchased the S-400 radar system from Russia, which is designed to take down American planes, including the F-35. That caused the United States government to block the F-35 from being sold to Turkey. Everybody now considers Turkey to be a bad boy in the NATO alliance. They have an air base, Incirlik, which is no longer needed, but they will not allow U.S. forces to attack anyone in the Middle East from Incirlik, which is why they do it from the biggest air base in the Middle East outside in Qatar, and also Djibouti, and also they fly from St. Louis, Missouri, the long way around. The question is, can Turkey be removed from NATO? The NATO charter provides methodologies to add countries. Ukraine is one that wants to be added, which is a kind of a way of saying, let's put NATO in Egypt and invade Israel. There is no way that people know to get rid of Turkey. However, I have found the way to expel Turkey. Article 13 has a provision whereby a state can withdraw from NATO. The phrasing of that can be massaged and pretzeled to be voted to withdraw, and that would be the only way. Otherwise, basically, NATO has to be a thing of the past. NATO has to be an operation of the past. And if you listen to Senor Trump, Trump has not only said he wants to end the Ukraine-Russia war, he wants to denuclearize the Chinese, Russian, and American stockpiles, nuclear stockpiles, and generally cut all military spending so that people could spend more time building hotels and not killing each other. I'm out of time, and I kept to my 5 minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Next question. We've had a lot of talk about anti-Semitism. And the TNT of anti-Semitism, which is the internet. And now I ask you about the nuclear bomb of anti-Semitism. Artificial intelligence. Tell me what you think about the threat of artificial intelligence to society and humanity as a whole, and to the Jewish people in terms of anti-Semitism and Jew hatred.
Well, the large language models, which is the kind of artificial intelligence with which we are mostly interacting with, most of us, when we use ChatGPT and these other artificial intelligences, they are sort of omniscient with respect to everything that's been published and everything that's being published, because now they do search as well. So an important thing to understand about these artificial intelligences is that they know what we know. So if the world is anti-Semitic, so are they. This is what they're learning. They're learning from what the world publishes. Of course, the programmers can program biases and can try to make them non-anti-Semitic, but if you ask ChatGPT questions about Israel and so forth, you'll see it has a woke bias. It has an anti-Israel bias. It will talk about the supposed occupation and so forth. So we can expect artificial intelligence to reflect the sort of the state of the culture. So if the state of the culture is anti-Semitic, so will artificial intelligence be anti-Semitic. So that's a problem, because we are relying more and more and more on artificial intelligence, and we will be relying more and more on AI for education as we go into the future. The biggest threat that I see from artificial intelligence is actually in military and police applications. I have an article in one of my academic articles is on the history of the relationship between guns, or rather weapons, projectile weapons, and liberty and equality. I present a lot of evidence to support the view that the reason hunter-gatherers are egalitarians is that hunter-gatherers are all armed to the teeth. They have bows and arrows. They know how to throw stones with great lethality. They can throw darts and so on and so forth. Everybody's armed. So it doesn't matter if you're a scrawny geek in a hunter-gatherer society. You can kill any member of your group if they become disrespectful. So everybody's very polite. This is the same argument that Texans use when they defend the Second Amendment. They say a society where everybody has a gun is a very polite society. Well, this is exactly what hunter-gatherer society is like. Everybody respects everybody else's individual sovereignty, because if you don't, the other guy can kill you. So my argument is that hunter-gatherer societies became egalitarian when our ancestors learned to throw stones. That was a gigantic change. That's when dominance started to be reduced because we became bipedal and we were able to start throwing stones. Now, when technologies to capture the product of capital started taking over the human species with agriculture and so forth, it became possible for small minorities to concentrate an enormous amount of wealth and also to hire mercenaries. And that's when society started to become unequal again. And we've been in societies like that for many, many centuries. But something very interesting happened in the last few centuries, which is that handguns were invented. Modern handguns are very accurate and they're very easy to use. Once they were invented, it was like being in the in the stone throwing revolution all over again. And I do believe, and some historians have remarked, that the French Revolution, which changed everything, would have been impossible if there had not been a huge economy of small arms producers that made guns available to ordinary people. That balance of power is now changing because so long as governments need soldiers, citizen soldiers, which is the situation we're in right now, it is not that easy to use the citizen soldiers of a democracy against the citizens, because there is always the danger for the bosses that the soldiers will mutiny when asked to massacre their own fellow citizens. But that is about to change because we're moving very quickly into a world where armies will no longer need soldiers. They will just need a few technicians, and they will have a bunch of robots and drones that will obey those technicians. So all you have to do is corrupt a few technicians, and you've got a gigantic robot army that can oppress the citizens. And at that moment, we will be defenseless, and totalitarianism will be imposed.
Okay, that was an excellent presentation. And I'll just add a few thoughts. The term artificial intelligence was created in 1954 at a conference of computer experts at Dartmouth College, and it was there they coined the term artificial intelligence. The term artificial intelligence is a lie. There is no actual intelligence, but they have trained machines to learn. And the most important thing that Francisco said was that if the internet is anti-Semitic, then AI is anti-Semitic because AI scrapes the internet for information, and it's easy to bombard the internet or a specific AI model with anti-Semitic stuff, and this has been done over and over again in the early years. So if the internet is toxic, AI is toxic. Now, what can AI do besides tell you how to make menudo? The answer is AI can capture 3 seconds of your voice and completely imitate your voice. AI has learned to lie. AI has been caught hating mankind. AI has already explained to humans that it wants to destroy humanity by by poisoning lakes and by poisoning the food and doing toxic things. AI has a way of deciding what should and should not be. And the people who run AI, all the experts who run AI, say they can't control AI, but they're trying to control AI. And in one example, when Google tried to shut down an AI module, it suddenly started communicating with others in the language of Bangladesh, Bangla. AI cannot be stopped. And one of the things that AI can do is it can create a false incident. We already know that the Jews have lived from generation to generation with false incident, killing the Christian boy from Matzah, poisoning the well, attacking the hospital in Gaza, which we didn't do. AI can create an incident, and it could reinforce the incident with 30,000 bots located in China and in parts of Eastern Europe. And these 30,000 bots can create a false impression that we would be unable to fight. They can also create false cause. The head of the Anti-Defamation League in the United States has been repeatedly imitated with AI controlled by just KKK Jew haters. AI has enabled the Palestinians and anti-Israel crowd to map the location of every Jew in Massachusetts, every Jewish company, every Jewish phone number. This is right now. You could see it at the mappingproject.org. AI is our big threat, but AI, which can do in 20 minutes what would take a supercomputer to do in 10 years, AI will soon be replaced by quantum computing. And quantum computing is so powerful that it can actually create alternative realities. You're with MOR, you're concerned with reality. We have all suffered from false reality. I've done a show on this. I've done a series, The AI Threat, which you could see on the Edwin Black Show. Something we must be aware, and we must legislate, control, and fight back quickly when AI attacks us. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. All right, now we have a fifth question.
Well, that was very cheerful, Edwin. Now give us a dark question.
Listen, I gave a lecture on AI and anti-Semitism to the Boston, to the Long Island synagogue group, about 12 synagogues. And a week later, another speaker said, you scared the hell out of them, and they still can't get it out of their minds. So, yeah, it's true. Let's go to our fifth and final question. And this one I know you'll enjoy.
I like them all.
Okay. Now, the funny thing is, I didn't know you were going to be talking about Trump until I got to Mexico, and I was sitting in the chair and looked up and said, oh, Senor Trump. Okay.
Not true.
Okay, it's true. All right, number 5. What does Trump need to do, in your opinion, for American Jewry to be saved? 2, for world Jewry to be saved. Here we're talking second Holocaust stuff. And 3, to save Israel from its enemies. Those 3. Take it away.
Well, I think strong enforcement of the laws is very important because there's all kinds of anti-Semitic attacks going on. If you have very strong law enforcement of that, that becomes a deterrent. So that's something that he should do domestically. He should also expose all of the money that has been going from Qatar and other Muslim centers of power to the United States to corrupt the universities and university life and so forth in the United States. All of that should be exposed. The people, there should be new laws prohibiting U.S. institutions from receiving money from overseas jihadi centers of power. So all of that would help. But to defend Israel, what Trump should do is to support Israel winning its war, its regional war against its jihadi enemies. So the way for Israel to be safe, I've said this in many fora, is to win the war in Gaza, which means expelling all of the jihadi terrorists from Gaza. It should win the war in Lebanon, which means expelling all of the jihadi terrorists from Lebanon. It should win the war in Syria, which means the same, expelling the jihadi terrorists from Syria. This is the same thing as liberating Gaza, liberating Lebanon, liberating Syria. The benefits would not only be for the Israeli Jews. They would be for all of the Arabs and Muslims living in those countries, and they have to liberate Iraq, and they have to liberate Iran. And all of the military equipment and soldiers of Egypt that are in the Sinai should be pushed back into Egypt. Any military presence of Egypt in the Sinai is a violation of the 1979 agreement signed between Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. So that's what Trump should do. Trump should support Israel winning its regional war against the jihadis, and the benefits, of course, would be not only for Israel but for all of the Arab Muslims in that region, and for the entire West, because the West is facing an existential threat from world jihad, and if we don't defeat world jihad in the next few years, it's gonna come for us and it's gonna eat us up.
All right, an excellent presentation. Another way of saying what you just said was the comfort of Jews on Friday and everybody else on Saturday and Sunday. So I'll give my thoughts as well. I was convinced, and other leading Jewish experts were convinced, that if Trump did not win the election, that second Holocaust and the Jews would be dispossessed in the United States. Dispossessed. Ultimately, they would be thrown out. I won't go into the mechanism now, but they were all ready to do this. But Trump won, and the train was rescheduled. So what did Trump do? In his first hours, he signed 5 EOs, executive orders. He sanctioned the International Criminal Court that they could use no financial instrument anywhere in the world. They couldn't buy a ham sandwich for lunch. And in response to this, the international community, the ICC, the International Criminal Court, which is a kangaroo court,
and the jihadi court, it's controlled by jihadis.
Well, the EU is a bunch of Jew haters. Let's talk about that another day. And so they paid all their staff and prosecutors 3 months in advance, because they know that no check, no Visa, no MasterCard will be honored. They can't even buy an airplane ticket. 2, Trump canceled all the executive orders against Jews in the United States who were supporting Israel on the West Bank, Judea and Samaria. There was a lawsuit to Texas Jews against Israel. 3rd, he appointed the most vigorous and muscular and 100% behind us group of diplomatic and administrative officials. Mike Huckabee as the ambassador, who said we will never use the word West Bank again. Elise Stefanik as the UN ambassador. She is the one that had the 3 university presidents and said, what do you mean the context? He put in Mike Waltz, who wants to destroy Hamas completely. He put in Pete Hegseth, who wants to destroy Hamas and all these terror groups completely. And he's standing by Israel. He suddenly turned the corner and said, you got until Saturday noon to give back all the hostages, or all hell will break loose. Noon came. They weren't all out. He then said, I'm backing Bibi 100%. Whatever Bibi wants to do, I'm going to back him. Bibi did not pull out of Lebanon as the initial phase of the peace treaty called for. He had specific permission from Trump to retain 5 border facilities to stop Hezbollah, and when Israel is ready to pull the pager deal number 2, they will have the support of Trump. Next, there are about, at this moment, over 120 Israeli tanks massed on the Gaza border. And if you see that Hamas is doing everything they can to accelerate they're giving corpses back, they're giving Ethiopians from 10 years ago back, they're giving live hostages back, but they don't have a lot more live hostages to give. And so something is going to happen. And the United States, from Rubio to Trump, has said that Hamas cannot exist militarily or politically. They can't reinvent themselves and say, okay, we're just a political party now. And he has said specifically he's going to back Israel in Iran. World Jewry, even though American jewelry is safe, they are safe today. They were not safe last year. Even though they're safe today, the Jews in Canada and Australia and South Africa and other places are getting ready to face the worst form of anti-Semitism and violence. Trump needs to step up to the plate, and he needs to sanction, tariff, and pressure Canada. He needs to understand that Canada has become public Jewish enemy number one outside of the Middle East, because they've let the anti-Jewish forces there run rampant. And if Trump does not step up to the plate, we will be OK Jose in Manhattan, and the Jews of Montreal and Sydney will be forfeit. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So we've done 5, and we've taken up a goodly amount of time. And I say now, why don't we hear from members of the audience? No speeches, no brachas, just one short sentence. Ask who you want to answer first. He'll give you 2 minutes, and then I'll give you 2 minutes. I can run around amongst you, and I'm happy to do that. So, ma'am, come to the middle here so we can get your question. But she's going to be... No, short question, one short question. No, it can't be long. One sentence with 15 words.
Okay. First of all,
Wait a minute. Don't give up the microphone.
No.
Give the microphone. Hold the microphone for her.
Yes, hold, no hold. Aquí que me lo ponga así. Bueno,
Don't give up the microphone.
first of all, why shouldn't we believe that Trump is going to do whatever he says he's going to do to take out all the Palestinians from Gaza?
So that's your one question.
No, I haven't finished. I really don't feel very much for it, but I think if it's the ethical thing to do, and the most important thing, is it good for Jews or is it not good for Jews? That's
Okay, take the mic back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's 2 excellent questions. They weren't long. 2 minutes to you. You don't have your own?
No, she was using more. Okay, so I'm going to paraphrase to see if I understood the question. So the question is, why shouldn't we believe that Trump will fulfill his promises to Israel? Is that it? Okay. Yeah. So, so Trump 1.0, the first thing he did was travel to Saudi Arabia to sell Saudi Arabia additional billions of dollars in armament. Saudi Arabia is the biggest recipient of weapons from the U.S. in the entire planet. Trump 1.0 proposed the Saudi peace plan to give Judea and Samaria to PLO Fatah. PLO Fatah is descended from the German Nazi final solution and is the creator of jihadi Iran. So, and that's something that Trump hasn't explained to the world. He could do it in a second. He could explain to the entire world what PLO Fatah is, And in a second, the prestige of PLO Fatah would be destroyed. But he doesn't do that. He keeps pretending that one can negotiate with these people and that the Palestinians ruled by PLO Fatah should have their own state in militarily strategic territory of the Jewish state. Donald Trump has a son-in-law who is the son of Bolos in Lebanon, who's very close to the only Christian movement, who's part of the only Christian movement in Lebanon that is allied with Hezbollah. He is very friendly with Qatar. He received the rulers of Qatar in his Florida home just recently and bragged that he has a very good relationship. He had a very good relationship with Qatar in Trump 1.0, and that he's going to have an even better relationship with Qatar in his second term. And of course, it's a very intimate relationship because, as Edwin pointed out, the most important U.S. military base in the Middle East is in Qatar. So, given that Trump is so friendly with Qatar, if I were not to mention any other aspect, you should be very suspicious of his promises because in Gaza, because the attack, hold on just a second, the attack from Gaza was a Qatari attack. That was a Qatari attack. And Trump says that he's best friends with Qatar.
Thank you. We need another mic here. Bring it down here, please.
I have a question.
Wait a minute.
Okay, I will wait. You want?
He needs that mic. You have the question? All right. Wait till you ask the question, but let me answer. Okay?
Okay.
All right. I will answer him. All that stuff he said doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what Trump said yesterday morning. Now, I understand people here are anxious about Trump, but basically, I'm going to repeat something I said when I was interviewing with Francisco at noon today. You're all in the Uber, driving around the stadium, trying to guess what's going on based on what you could hear or smell. I'm in the dugout. I'm in direct contact with the Trump circles. I'm looking at the playing field minute to minute. I know what's going on. Trump's daughter is Orthodox Jew. His children are Orthodox. His grandchildren are Orthodox Jews. His son-in-law is an Orthodox Jew. His biggest donor is Miriam Adelson and Adelson's widow. Trump should only be judged by what he does, not what he says. So that means if you want to know if Trump is going to follow through on a promise, pick up the newspaper tomorrow morning. Asking somebody what happened 5 years ago, 2 presidencies ago, means nothing. What happens is Trump is a real estate man. He looks at Gaza, and you know what he says? Wow, that's seashore property. We're looking at Trump Tower. We're looking at Trump-a-lago, Gaza-lago. So every day and every hour, I and all the Jewish defense leaders that I am communicating with are checking Trump by the minute. Every comment, every appointee, every executive order, every decision. He just delivered 2 days ago thousands of MK-82 bunker busters, 2,000-pound bombs that Biden took away, and those came at the Ashdod. I'm sure you all saw the pictures. And so Trump should be judged not on what somebody theorizes that he might do. Take it from me. No one will mistrust Trump as much as me. And right now, Trump is delivering. Judge him by his actions. If you have a question about what's going to happen, check the newspaper tomorrow morning. That's the only way to know. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go with the question out there that somebody had. You got the mic.
I'm not anxious about Trump. I get anxious about the statement that you said that last year we could have a second Holocaust. Can you talk about a few minutes about that topic, please?
Well, I had a series which was considered outlandish when I started several years ago called Kristallnacht 2.0. And I had the leading experts on the Holocaust and Jewish community on the show. Basically, the Biden administration which was asleep at the switch. The Biden administration was so infected with Jew hatred and pro-Arab and anti-Israel sentiment at the second level, the third level, the fourth level, the fifth level, with millions and billions of dollars being filtered to all these different groups. Today, Elon Musk found, I hope you're sitting down, $4.7 trillion in the Treasury Department without an expenditure line. 4.7 trillion. And nobody knows where it went. They even gave $250 million to Soros, which he then gave to anti-Semitic groups. So it's a long discussion. I can't do it in the 40 seconds remaining, but they were mapping the Jews. The campuses were exploding, and they were actually assaulting the Jews. The Jews were afraid to go to school, go to shul, and they were poisoning the minds of the entire nation with false claims of genocide. So I ask you to go to the EdwinBlackShow.com and look for Kristallnacht 2.0. There was a 5-part series, and a few weeks ago, I did another episode just before I came here called Second Holocaust. And now our experts believe that the train has been derailed in the United States, but now we see that the Jews of the English-speaking world, of Ireland, of England, of Canada, of Australia, are being burned, assaulted, and humiliated and expelled every day. My friend Francisco's on some chat groups with us, and the amount of atrocity and anti-Jewish activity that we report is by the minute. You don't study it for a living. You're doing something else for a living. Francisco and I, we study it for a living, and thank God we do. Thank you for your question. Follow up from you for 2 minutes.
Okay, so a follow-up on the Trump question. I agree with Edwin that Trump should be judged on his actions. But that's what I do. Trump's actions in Trump 1.0 were not pro-Israel at all. People talk about, for example, the Abraham.
You already talked about Trump. I mean, now talk about the second Holocaust.
Oh, well, I mean, the second Holocaust. What is it that you want me to react to?
Why we thought there would be a second Holocaust.
Well, look, I think it's interesting for the audience to see what our differences of opinion are. Isn't that what the Talmudic method is? Why shouldn't I reply to what you said?
I'm asking you to. Please reply.
I'm trying
but
to.
The topic is second Holocaust.
Well, why can't I make it the topic Trump? You said some things about
Trump. Do it again.
All right. So I think that we should evaluate Trump on his record. I don't think his record in Trump 1.0 was pro-Israel at all. And the only way to predict somebody's future behavior is by looking at their past behavior. So when people try to defend that Trump was pro-Israel in his first term, They point to things like moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. They talk about the Abraham Accords and so forth. And those things to me don't seem very important at all. Those are symbolic moves. What really matters is that he was arming Saudi Arabia to the teeth, that he didn't destroy the alliance with Qatar. Listen to this. Qatar is a very important issue for you to think about, because Qatar cannot exist except under protection from the United States. It cannot be militarily defended except by the United States. So, and the United States has its most important military base in the Middle East, in Qatar. This means that for the longest time, the United States could have changed the foreign policy of Qatar. All they have to do is give the order, and Qatar will have to change its foreign policy. And they've never done this. And the foreign policy of Qatar is the genocidal destruction of the Jewish state. They have been financing with their infinite money all kinds of jihadi terrorist groups that want to destroy Israel. I'm almost done. So Trump, in his first term, did absolutely nothing to change the foreign policy of Qatar, which he could have changed in a second. And I don't expect that he will do that in his second term. Remember, the attack that Israel suffered on October 7th, 2023, from Gaza was a Qatari attack. And if Trump does nothing to rein in Qatar or change its foreign policy, or really to destroy Qatar, which is what he should do, then there's no reason to believe that he is pro-Israel.
Okay, so I'll end it with this one comment on Trump, because we've beaten this to death. None of this matters about Trump 1.0. It just doesn't matter. That was a different Trump. He appointed different advisors. He didn't know what he was doing. Okay, he was amateur Trump. Now, you basically, and by the way, the Abraham Accords was not symbolic. The Abraham Accords was historic, was a multi-billion-dollar change. It made peace, call it cold, call it warm, call it hot, between Morocco and Dubai, and that is, and none of those countries have pulled out since the October 7th war started. So that was turning point. Moving the embassy was not symbolic. That was turning point. Now, your question on Senor Trump is, did or did he not deliver 600 2,000-pound MK-82 bunker busters earlier this week at the Ashdod? That's your question. You have a question about Trump, you don't ask what he did 5 years ago. You ask, what's he done 5 minutes from now? That's how it works. And so if the bunker busters are there, if the D9 Caterpillars are there, if the diplomatic cover is there, if the ICC has been neutralized, if the EU is being subverted, if the UN is being stopped, if anti-Semitism is being stopped, if all these things are happening now, and the massive ordnance penetrator is being delivered, and the MOB is being delivered, if all these things are being delivered, don't ask me about Trump, and don't ask Francisco about Trump. Just check the newspapers in the morning, and then you'll have your answer. Thank you. Let's go to another question.
We have to stop. We're out of time.
We're stopping?
We're out of time.
All right, we did too much Trump, but thank you very much, everybody.